Do immigrants receive more benefits than firefighters' wages in Portugal? Portugal and other parts of Europe have been at the centre of one of the continent's worst wildfire seasons since records began in 2006, which has also turned into a breeding ground for misinformation. This post appeared on Instagram in August, which compares the supposed €910 that immigrants receive in benefits with the zero that volunteer firefighters receive in stipends. The account that published the picture is a self-professed supporter of the far-right Chega party and has more than 16,000 followers. Immigrants don't receive any preferential treatment over Portuguese citizens or immediate benefits upon their arrival in the country. According to Portuguese law, they only qualify for benefits after fulfilling certain requirements, depending on the benefit. For example, to qualify for the social integration income, non-EU and non-EEA citizens need to have legally resided in Portugal for a year. They must also be in a situation of what the government describes as extreme poverty and must enroll in an integration program, among other requirements. The amount received depends on the composition of the household requesting it and its income, but government figures put the reference amount at €237 per month for the applicant, and then extra amounts for other adults and children living in the household. Volunteer firefighters, meanwhile, receive a stipend of €75 per day, or about €3 per hour when divided over 24 hours, which the League of Portuguese Firefighters has criticised for not being enough. The lowest pay scale for a salaried firefighter, meanwhile, stands at €1,074 per month, according to government figures. Following the blazes in Portugal, citizens are angry that firefighters are not paid enough for their life-saving work, but posts suggesting that this is somehow the fault of immigrants are disingenuous. The false story of the nurse who wrote the names of the fallen in Normandy. An image is circulating widely on social media claiming to show an Allied Forces World War II nurse taking the names of soldiers who died during the D-Day landings in Normandy in France. The picture is typically shared with captions saying that the men were buried in makeshift graves on Omaha Beach before proper cemeteries were built, and that nurse Clara Thompson wrote down the names of each soldier that she tended to. Her notebook was supposedly found decades later in her daughter's attic. The images appeared all over Facebook and X, but the story has been fabricated, with the picture having the hallmarks of being AI generated. The Allies established 8 military cemeteries within 4 days of the D-Day landings on the 6th of June 1944, with the first American and British nurses arriving on the 10th and 12th of June respectively. In the picture, the alleged nurse is not wearing an accurate uniform. Official archives show that army nurses serving in Normandy wore much different attire to what is depicted here. More than 4,000 Allied soldiers died on D-Day, with the landings eventually leading to the liberation of France and subsequently the rest of Europe. It ultimately paved the way to an Allied victory against Nazi Germany, which surrendered in May 1945. For more investigations and fact checks, head to our website euronews.com.
¿En qué lugar de la Unión Europea se valora más la cultura? El 79% de los encuestados afirma que la cultura es importante para ellos, lo que supone un aumento del 2% respecto a la anterior encuesta de 2007. Esto es lo que muestra la última encuesta del Eurobarómetro. Las puntuaciones más altas se encuentran en Luxemburgo, Chipre e Italia. Las más bajas son las de Alemania, Austria y Rumanía. Pero la cultura no es solo personal. Para más de 8 de cada 10 europeos, la cultura y las artes son importantes para el bienestar y el desarrollo económico del lugar donde viven. Una vez más, Luxemburgo, Portugal e Italia están a la cabeza, mientras que Bulgaria y Austria registran los niveles más bajos. Casi la mitad de los europeos participaron en actividades artísticas el año anterior a la encuesta, con el baile y el canto como actividades principales. La encuesta se realizó entre febrero y marzo de 2025 a más de 26.000 encuestados de todos los Estados miembros de la Unión Europea y de todos los grupos sociales y demográficos. Sus resultados se incorporarán a la Brújula de la Cultura para Europa, la estrategia de política cultural de la Comisión prevista para finales de año.
Debunking viral claims about Spanish olive oil. Several viral online claims are suggesting that Spanish olive oil is being secretly mixed with Moroccan oil. Others say that the government is preparing to recall olive oil products from the market due to overproduction. One of these claims is false and the other only partially true. Spain is the world's largest producer of olive oil, responsible for nearly half of global output. The sector generates billions of euros each year and provides tens of thousands of jobs, so any suggestion of fraud or disruption quickly sparks public concern. The first claim, that major brands such as Carbonell, Hojiblanca and Coipe use Moroccan olives, is unfounded. The confusion came from labels mentioning olives sourced inside and outside the EU. The reason for this is that in 2022 and 2023, after drought and extreme heat hit Spanish crops, these companies blended oil from Chile, Argentina and Tunisia, a common practice in the sector. But Morocco was never among the suppliers, and since 2025, these brands have returned to using exclusively Spanish olives, with new transparency measures like QR codes showing the product's origins. The second claim has a kernel of truth, but the claim that Spanish olive oil will be immediately recalled on the government's orders is false. Spain's Agriculture Ministry is indeed considering a legal mechanism that would allow the withdrawal of olive oil from the market if harvests are too abundant. The goal is to stabilize prices, prevent speculation, and protect both farmers and consumers. But the measure, which is based on EU and national laws, has not yet been approved. It would have to get the green light before October 31st and would only apply to the 2025/2026 campaign if overproduction is clearly confirmed. Two major farming groups, COAG and UBA, support the idea, arguing it would stabilize prices and protect small producers. Still, the proposal is not even finalized yet, and experts believe it is unlikely to be used this year because production levels may not be high enough to trigger it.
¿Qué dispositivos conectados a Internet utilizan más los ciudadanos de la Unión Europea? En 2024, el 70,9% de los ciudadanos de la Unión Europea utilizó dispositivos conectados a Internet. El mayor porcentaje de usuarios se registró en los Países Bajos, seguido de Irlanda y Dinamarca, según Eurostat. Por el contrario, los porcentajes más bajos se registraron en Polonia, Bulgaria y Rumanía. Los televisores conectados a Internet fueron, con diferencia, los dispositivos del Internet de las cosas más utilizados en 2024, según el 57,9% de las personas. Le siguieron los dispositivos como relojes inteligentes y las pulseras de fitness. Una quinta parte de las personas declararon utilizar videoconsolas y sistemas de audio domésticos conectados a Internet. El 16% de los encuestados afirma utilizar un asistente virtual en forma de altavoz inteligente. En cambio, el uso de dispositivos de domótica es menos frecuente. El 14,2% de las personas utilizó un sistema de gestión de la energía doméstica conectado a Internet, el 12,8% electrodomésticos inteligentes y el 11,8% dispositivos de seguridad inteligentes. Por último, el 10,5% declaró haber utilizado un coche con conexión inalámbrica. El 7,9% declaró utilizar dispositivos relacionados con la salud y el 2,3% utilizó juguetes conectados a Internet.
Disinformation intensifies ahead of the Moldovan parliamentary elections. Online disinformation targeting Moldova's pro-European government is intensifying weeks before the country votes in pivotal parliamentary elections. Analysts fear that pro-Kremlin propaganda could skew the vote in favor of Moscow-friendly parties, and European leaders are sounding the alarm.
La propagande du Kremlin nous explique que les Européens souhaitent prolonger la guerre et que l'Union européenne opprime les peuples. Ce sont des mensonges.
Our verification team has been examining some of the misleading narratives circulating on social platforms aimed at undermining President Maya Sandu and her pro-EU ruling party. AI-generated videos on TikTok allege that Moldova is occupied by European governments and will only be liberated once the ruling party is unseated. On Telegram, pro-Kremlin groups are claiming that Moldova will face the same fate as its neighbor, Ukraine, and be dragged into war if it continues on its path to become a member of the European Union. The narrative is being amplified across other platforms like TikTok, with claims that the September vote is a choice between neutrality and joining Europe and NATO in a war against Russia. Also spreading are false claims that as many as 800 NATO soldiers could be deployed to Moldova in the run-up to the vote to suppress protesters and provide support to the ruling PAS party if it is defeated. But the Moldovan Ministry of Defense has denied the claim, describing it as part of a campaign to instill fear and distrust ahead of the elections. Experts say a Kremlin-backed network of bots, known as Matryoshka, is also actively working to undermine the vote and that its activities could intensify in the coming weeks.
¿Qué ciudadanos de la Unión Europea tienen más problemas para atender su salud bucodental? Más del 6% de la población de la Unión Europea mayor de 16 años declaró no poder acceder a una atención dental adecuada en 2024. Los principales motivos son sus limitaciones financieras, los largos tiempos de espera o la distancia a la que se encuentran las clínicas. Las tasas más elevadas de necesidad de una mejor atención odontológica se dan en Letonia, con un 16,5%, y en Rumanía, con un 16,2%. Por el contrario, los porcentajes más bajos se observaron en Malta, con un 0,4%, Alemania con un 0,9% y Croacia con un 1,1%. El porcentaje de personas en riesgo de pobreza que declararon tener sus necesidades de atención dental no cubiertas en 2024 fue del 13,7%, un porcentaje mucho mayor que el de las personas sin riesgo de pobreza, del 5,1%. Esta disparidad se refleja en todos los países de la Unión Europea. Las diferencias más significativas se encuentran en Rumanía, con una brecha de 30,9 puntos porcentuales, y en Grecia, con una diferencia del 30,1%. También se observaron grandes diferencias en Letonia y en Portugal. Por otra parte, Alemania, Malta y Polonia tienen la brecha más pequeña respecto a las tasas de necesidades dentales insatisfechas entre aquellos con riesgo de pobreza en comparación con las personas con mayores ingresos.